Hello and welcome to Read the Last Page,
A Yap session
book club
with your two favorite long-distance best friends.
The book read this month is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
And since we finally read the last page, let's talk about it. Hi, B. Happy belated B-Day. It was Laura's
Thank
birthday,
you.
literally yesterday as we're recording. How are you doing? How was your birthday?
I'm good. It was good.
Good.
Seth had a surprise date for me and he took me to see Stranger Things, The First Shadow on Broadway. And I'm wearing my shirt
Oh my God. Oh,
from
I
the
didn't
show.
even realize.
If you can see it.
Cool.
Yes. And he also got me a cat that, like, like the Chrissy Crumble in, like season 4 of Stranger Things when they bone crack.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So this happens at the beginning of the play, but like that happens to a cat. So
Oh, no.
they're selling this cat that like has wire in it, so you can like, let's see if I can show you without making my mic. It like you can bend it like crazy.
Oh my
So-
gosh.
Yeah, anyways.
Okay, Stranger Things.
Yeah. He also
That's
got
crazy.
me these pink roses. You can't see them, but they're on
Aw.
my desk, which pink roses are my favorite. So.
Aw, that's sweet.
Yeah, it was a good day. Like before that, he obviously was working, so I was at home and I just like had a day to myself. I was like
Nice.
journaling and reading.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, of course, after the show, of course, we had to stop at Taco Bell.
Of course.
So yeah,
a
it
full
was, like,
day.
a great day.
Did you like the show? Like, do you like the
Oh my
play?
gosh, yes, it was so good.
Mhm.
Like totally, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, like it's like you would like it,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
because basically all the adults in the TV show, it's like they're all in high school.
Right.
And it's like, so you know who they all are. And there's some new characters too. But yeah, like the tech was like out of this world, like,
Ugh.
and also they had like sort of the intro,
Mhm.
and then it went into like the title sequence from the show, and like there's a lot of projection, so it was like, like the Stranger Things where the S and like all the letters are coming out, like literally the intro in the show.
Mhm.
And the music, and you know how I feel about that music every time we watch it. And I don't know how much the tickets cost, but whatever they cost, it was worth it just for that part. Like if nothing
Okay.
else, that already in itself was like, I was like, I'm like witnessing this live.
That's so amazing.
And they had like, and then it said like at the end of like the title card, it said like chapter 1. I honestly don't even remember what the chapter was called. And then like at intermission, it was like on the screen, it was like, it said like chapter 2, blah blah blah, like wait, like almost like you're waiting to press play,
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, so
dope.
it was very like, it like felt like we were watching like Stranger Things episodes live,
Ugh.
like it was so cool. And like Seth said, he was like, we were talking about it afterwards in the characters, he was like, that girl that was like the director of the play, I really liked her. Guess who it was? Joyce Byers. I was like, of course.
Oh yes, because
Like,
Seth has
'cause
yet
everyone
to
loves
see
her.
Stranger Things. That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes.
yeah. He's only seen the first episode of the show, like the Netflix show, and he even really loved the play,
Mhm.
like even not like having the context. So like that, I feel like speaks to how good it is.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was so cool. It's like about Henry Creel,
Sure.
as a teenager, and he was kind of like, he was doing a lot of like the shadow monster sort of possessing him in a way, and it's like he was doing a lot of like, for lack of a better word, tweaking, like but it was so good. Like I was telling Seth after, I was like, it never felt cringy to watch because he was so committed to it. Like
Okay.
his acting was so good. I'm like, if anyone got up there and tried to do that and had any ounce of like feeling embarrassment or like feeling silly about what they were doing, like you would be able to tell as the audience, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
he was
that's
like
a-
he was so in it, the actor was, that like I was like, well, right, you know.
that's happening and that's real and that's exactly
Yeah,
how you'd act. Oh, that's so
yeah.
nice.
And it was also so long. It was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, like including the intermission, which is like
Mm-hmm.
really long. And I told Seth, like, even as somebody who loves Broadway shows and loves like movies in the theater, a lot of times I'm watching stuff and I'm like, it gets to like the 3/4 point and you're like, all right, like this is still
Wrap
going.
it up.
But like I never felt like that for 1 second when I was watching this. Like
Good.
I was just like, I didn't even realize the time was passing. Like it was just so cool. It was so good.
Good. Wait, I'm so happy you
Yeah.
got to experience that. I wonder if that's
Me
gonna,
too.
because so, okay, if anyone doesn't know, Laura and I are really big Stranger Things fans. It like plays into our personal friendship lore so hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, Stranger Things is now finished at the time that this is coming out, just wrapped up. You have not watched it yet, right?
Right. I haven't finished
Finished it.
season 5.
Yeah. I wonder if any of that, I mean, because I don't even really know much about the play, but I'm like, obviously, in the first volume, we got that little bit of like of Max running into Joyce. So I'm like, I wonder if like you're going to know things that you saw in the play that are going to play into kind of
yeah.
what you see in the final 3
Yeah.
episodes. I don't know. 'Cause
Yeah, I
have
don't
no
know either,
context.
but like when I was watching the play, I was like, man, like this is really making me want to finish the show. I just haven't done it yet because I just like I'm like nervous to finish it.
I was
and
like
stuff.
that too, yeah. I was putting
And
it off.
yeah, but I will say like I feel like the play was very much, I looked at like when it came out and I think it was like 2023 and the Duffer Brothers were like, you know, a part of it.
Okay.
It's like canon to the Stranger Things
That's
world.
so interesting.
Yeah, and so I feel like it was being made around the same time as season 4. It
Yeah.
really, it felt very, you know, related to season 4 to me from what I remember about season 4, which I've only seen once, so it's like hard to say.
Sure.
But like the bones cracking and stuff like that, you know. Well, just because it's about like Henry, so you know if you've seen Stranger Things and you know who Henry is and the story, you know, it's like it's sort of his origin story, so it makes sense that it goes with season 4.
Right.
But yeah, but like Seth was like, he was like, I would go see that again. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like that's how good it was so cool because like when you watch musicals, like basically anything on Broadway is usually always great, right?
Sure.
But like when you watch a musical, the point is not like the tech of it all. The tech of it all is usually really good, but it's like the point is more like the singing and the acting.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, the acting was really good, but it was like also the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
The visual, you know?
Awesome.
So it was different. Yeah.
That's
I loved
cool.
it.
That's so cool. I'm so excited for you to finish Stranger Things though. So like whenever that happens, just like text me or Dodge maybe.
I will.
But here's the thing too. It's like I was because okay, I would say Stranger Things season 1, 2, and 3, huge deal to me. Huge deal to me. For some reason, Stranger Things 4 I've only seen twice. Yeah. And so it's like I'm so less familiar with that, and I think that plays into my experience for watching season 5. Yeah. And so it's like what I want to really do is watch season 4 and season 5 again, so that way I can really deeply figure out all of my thoughts and feelings on everything.
Yeah.
I was satisfied with it though, so that makes me feel good. Like I'm
good to know.
I'm good with it.
I feel like if you were, then I will be, because like,
we're kin like that, low key.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That's
exactly.
Good. I feel like we're getting so much good media lately, like entertainment wise. Like usually January, I feel like it's a drought, but like Stranger Things just finished. Tomorrow, People Meet on Vacation, the movie comes out, which is written by Emily Henry, who's my girl. Yeah. So I'm so excited for that. I'm seeing The Pit tonight.
Is the movie in the theater?
No, it's on Netflix.
Oh, but still, I just was curious.
I wish it was a theatrical release.
Yeah,
it kind of bugs me that like Netflix doesn't release things in theaters, or at least try to. They did with Stranger Things, I guess, but we could be doing more, guys. It's fine.
Well, how are you doing though?
I'm great. Like I said, I've got so much entertainment keeping me busy during this January season. I was telling you this, but like the weather's been like really oddly warm, and so Like, I was telling someone last night. Actually, no, someone was telling me last night. They were like, yes, we need all these like things to come out, like, because we were talking about the pit coming out, and they're like, we need all these things to come out to help with like winter depression. And then someone else responded in our group chat, and she was like, why is it 60 here though? Like, is that even winter
Right.
depression? And we're like, I don't know, it's winter confusion plus like we kind of are depressed, but like it's fine.
Right. It's almost like it's making me like it could be making you depressed that it's not feeling like winter. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like confusing.
It's like, yeah, because last week I was cold, and this week now I'm like, what? Like, also it feels like it should be, because I'm very firmly in January.
right.
It's confusing my
Yeah.
head. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Life. January. It's like, you know, we have the new year, and then January 4th is my like anniversary of moving to New York, and then the 7th is my birthday. It's like back to back to back to back, you
So
know?
much stuff. So much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much like new. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, it's a new year. And then it's like, oh, it's a new year of me in New York. And then it's like, oh, it's a new age for me, you know? All kind of right in the same week.
That is so true. Do you ever feel weird because your birthday and like Christmas and New Year's are all like packed in like that?
I feel like I like it. Like, not really thinking about Christmas, but more like the new year, because it's like, for me, it's like when I think about 2026, it's like, okay, like that's the year that I'm 27, and I get like a little buffer at the beginning of the year to be like, okay, here we are in the new year,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna be 27. So I feel like it works because I don't have to like wait all year for my birthday, you know? It's
Yeah.
like I get to start it.
Yeah.
I get like the fresh start, kind of like it's invigorated because I'm also turning a new age.
It's just so crisp. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like every new, like you're really like peeling off the calendar, you know.
Yeah.
Sheep.
That's a good word for it. Crisp.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I feel like my whole life, I mean, I love that my birthday's in September, but like it is kind of, whenever I'm trying to remember what age I was when I did something or what year, I'm always like, I could have been anything. I don't know.
Right.
like,
Right.
Like it's hard to factor into that, but like you know. So
Yeah. That's nice.
yeah. All right.
So, shall we talk about our book?
I guess so.
Okay, so our book is, like we said, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And funny story, New York Public Library has been sending me emails about how I owe them money for this because everybody's got this on their wait list, and I have had it for like 2 months, and I think I was
on it.
supposed to only have it for like 2 weeks. So
Well,
currently I owe them like $30, but because I think it's like lost, you know.
okay.
But once I turn it in, everything should be fine.
Okay. No worry. It's coming back to you, girl. Don't even worry about it, New York. We're good. That's so funny.
Do you want to give like a brief synopsis?
Yeah, I kind of wrote something out a little
Okay,
bit, so I'll
perfect.
just, if you see me referencing to that page, my screen.
Love it.
Anyway, so yeah, this is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's a historical fiction novel set in the 1980s, which follows a young woman named Joan Goodwin as she becomes one of the very first female scientists selected to join NASA's space program. So the beginning of this book starts essentially on like the worst day of Joan's life, as she's tasked with the responsibility of getting astronauts currently in a life-threatening situation of sorts back home safely. And so throughout this story, you're kind of sent back to the beginning of Joan's journey with NASA, the people she meets, the connections she forms, the training she has, all leading up to this moment. And then we're flashing back in time every so often to this day and like why it's so crucial that like Joan is the one who's kind of handling this situation and what that means to the people whose lives are currently in peril, I would say. So yeah, that's Atmosphere. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I would just say like it's called Atmosphere, a love story.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, like there is a whole romance plot alongside that. So I just
it's
thought
a
I'd
little
throw that in there.
cheeky, sneaky little romance plot, which I was so excited for. Okay, yeah. So if you don't know, we do our non-spoilers thoughts and then we go into our spoiler section. So as for
Mhm.
non-spoiler thoughts and opinions, B, do you want to? Okay, I'm scared. Do you want to start? I'm scared. Wait, I'm really scared.
No, I think you should start.
Okay. This is for reference. The reason why I'm saying I'm scared is because Laura texted me earlier and she said, I don't know how this episode's gonna go, and that makes me nervous. I really thought
I don't think it's gonna be bad.
I thought this was a shoo-in for us to both be on the same exact page. I don't know why. I'm so okay. We'll see. Anyway, my overall thoughts on the book. I was really, really, really glad that like this was the first book we wanted to read for 2026, because like I was so happy that I read this because I felt like it started me off on like such a good foot for this year.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I thought it was like really refreshing to read because I just found myself so thoroughly entertained and like attached to the characters and the stories and like everything. I literally like when I finished it, I did that thing where, you know, you read the first 100 pages like at a normal rate and then you're like, oh my god, we record tomorrow. Literally. And then I really quickly like read 200 pages in one sitting. Yeah. So I got off work at 5 and I finished this book by 9. So in 4 hours I had read like the whole final 2/3 of the book.
Yeah.
And I took my eyes away from the page as I finished. And I turned to my roommate. I was also sobbing, but like whatever. But I turned to my roommate and I was like, my eyes like hurt. Cause like I was like so locked into the page. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think I've had that intense of a reading experience in a long time. So I really liked it. And I found it like super heartbreaking. But like one thing about Taylor Jenkins Reid that I really like is she's one of those few authors that like can write really kind of sad stuff but make you feel okay afterward. Like I think she's really good at putting things into perspective and making you feel better for experiencing something bad. Like it's like usually if like there are circumstances where you're facing death, loss, whatever, a lot of times I just get this really sinking feeling that I'm like, oh my god, like I really can't, like I have no idea how anyone's going to recover from this. And somehow Taylor Jenkins Reid always digs you out of that hole and makes it feel okay and like we can get past it. So I really appreciate that. I think that's used many times in this story, and I liked every time she used it. I left feeling like both like so heartbroken but like so like fulfilled and like understanding of the love in it. And I don't know, I have so many like positive feelings towards it. So like I don't know, that's my very quick thoughts on everything.
What other books by her have you read? Because this is the first book by her that I've read.
So I've read she has, I think her most popular one is called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Which I've read, and that's like takes place, well, she does this thing which I think is so cool, is most of her books are about I would say like I'll use the first term loosely, like famous women in different decades. And so like Evelyn Hugo is like follows an old Hollywood movie star, and then I read a book called Daisy Jones and the Six, which is like very heavily based on the band Fleetwood Mac, which is really good. That was my favorite of hers before this one. And then there's another one I read called Carrie Soto is Back, which is about a tennis player in the 1990s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually interesting to hear because this book is like, it's like about something that's real, like, you know, real women actually and men, you know, were, you know, doing space flight, and like you know, they were calling down to Houston or whatever, but like obviously these characters aren't real. And I thought that was really interesting and almost like a difficult, I feel like it would be difficult to write because it's like you have to be somewhat historically accurate, but like obviously you're writing fiction, and it's different than just like writing in a time period, you know, like just like historical fiction about during, you know, the 60s, you know, it's like way more specific. So that's interesting that it sounds like she kind of, that's sort of her style. Yes.
So my friend Haley and I always say to each other whenever we're reading her books, we're like, I just want to Wikipedia like these people. I want to look them up. Like I feel like there's like should be a place I can go to read about these people more. Right. Because they are so baked into the real life universe, but they just don't exist. I think that's like such a superpower that like Taylor Jenkins Reid has, where like she can just easily do that. I think that's so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, well, okay, along with that, if you guys have been following along, the last book we read, The Mercury
Yeah.
13, like was referenced in this book, and like,
Mm-hmm.
this is happening what, like 10, 20 years later or something.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the exact timeline, but like it's a little bit further beyond The Mercury 13, but it was like so interesting. It was like how wonderful for us that we had just read like an actual historical
Mm-hmm.
account, and then this sort of was like such a good follow up to that, because I feel like, not that I understood all of the technical terms in this book, but I feel like I had a much easier time understanding like what was going
Yeah.
on in the ins and outs, and also the work that it took for like our main character Joan
Yep.
to be in the place where she was, which she and the other women were still, you know, sort of fighting for their spot in like the space flights, and they
Mm-hmm.
were all really concerned if one woman does something wrong, then are all women going to be written out, and it's like having the context of 20 years earlier, the women just wanting to be included in the tests,
Yes.
and it's like
Yes.
now in this book, like because of those real women that we just read about,
Yeah.
these, I don't know, that was just like, that was amazing, like planning on our part,
I
and we
know.
didn't even plan
It fell into our lap.
it.
Yeah. Truly.
Well, okay, I feel like my overall thoughts is I loved the beginning. Like,
Okay.
this was one of the books, like, I feel like, I think I kind of texted you about this. Like, I haven't felt so drawn in right at the beginning, and, like, felt the stakes and cared, and, like, was like, I need to keep reading this, like, right at the beginning of a book
Yeah.
in, like, a long time. I really liked the ending.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the middle, I just found myself bored.
Okay.
Um, I just like, I don't know. Overall, like, it's not a bad book, and I don't think that it's like, oh, I didn't like this book,
Mm-hmm.
but I just was like so entranced by the beginning, and so like, oh, this is like the exact type of book that I like and that I want to read.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like it got further into her personal romantic relationship, and I just didn't care. Like,
Really?
yeah, I just was like, can we go back to the space station?
Oh
Like,
my gosh. Wait, I'm shocked. No, it's fine. Like I'm just like, wow, like we had very different
yeah,
experiences.
I I was I cared a lot about her, like the relationship with her niece.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I'm like, when do we go into spoilers? This isn't really a spoiler, but it's like, I don't feel like the I feel like the how do I say this? The relationship that she had with her niece, and the view, like her POV, and like the way that she felt about her sister and her niece, like, was sort of the same throughout the whole book. Like, I was like waiting for there to be more development, and I feel like the sort of conclusion that they came to at the end was like exactly what I thought would happen, like
Mm-hmm.
right the very first time that we met the sister and the niece, like from the get-go. So I was just like, I was more interested in that relationship, but I didn't feel like it like did anything too interesting. It was just exactly
Mm.
what I expected it to be, I guess.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
then I don't know. I don't know. I just like, it's not that I'm like, I only cared about the action of the space flight, and like, you know, the space flight, and her like being in Capcom or whatever. Um because I do really like when there's like, the character backstory, and we understand like her ties to all these different people. But I just found the beginning so interesting, and then I just felt like I had to read like 200 pages. Like, I just was just like, I don't know. I just feel like it was just too much of the same thing. And I was like, okay, I
Mm.
get it. She likes this woman and she cares about her niece. What else? Like, I just feel like it
I
didn't.
don't know. I mean, I respect everything you're saying. Promise, girl. I just feel like for me, I was reading it and I just everything in between the physical stakes, like the obvious, when I don't want to really give away a lot of spoilers, but when
Right.
we're starting the book, like I said, there's this kind of like really huge catalyst that really like takes you into a kind of disaster of sorts. And so there's those physical stakes, and then everything in between that is all about the emotional stakes. And so for me, I just felt like everything between her and like her romantic interest and her family, like all of that was like building up on the emotional stakes, and I found that to be such a great balance between like what physically was happening and then what emotionally was happening, and then what all led to like those final 20 pages, which was like a combination of both of those things really being intertwined and messy together.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, I get why maybe it wasn't as captivating as like, especially because like this book really starts with a bang, and then for a long time we're kind of put back into the beginning of Joan's career, and then it's like for so long we're in those chapters that you almost forget like we are going to return back to the present day, and every time you're returning to the present day you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So I get why it's like if you're not enjoying those parts it would be like a slog of a bit to get through. I totally understand, but like, yeah, I don't know, I just didn't have that experience, so I just think it's
It's interesting because I felt very emotional when reading like the first 20 pages. Like, I was almost moved to tears. Like,
yeah,
I felt emotional for these characters already,
yeah,
and then I feel like I spent the whole middle of the book like not feeling as emotional as I did in those first, like that first bit. And I like in my head I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be understanding why the first 20 pages is like so emotional. Like, now we're getting the backstory and the context, like I understand it literarily. But for me it just wasn't. I don't know, I just had a hard time feeling like I cared.
okay, no, I got you, girl, it's okay. We just disagree here, but that is totally fine. Was there anything that, I mean, other than the, I guess, beginning and the end, was there anything else that you liked that you haven't talked about, or do you feel like
I really liked like I liked the parts in the, I guess we could say, like the flashbacks or the lead up to.
yeah,
What I really liked was the parts where they were like at the training grounds or whatever, or
uh-huh,
like at like a barbecue at one of the guys' houses, when they
yeah,
were like in the group together and there was a group dynamic. Like, I
yes,
found that interesting and that compelling.
mm-hmm.
um I don't know if it was necessarily like as emotional, because I don't think it like was meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
but like I was curious about like, oh, how does Joan relate to this woman versus this man or this man, and
Yeah,
how do those two interact with each other, and how does that affect, like, I liked that there was sort of a complex dynamic. It wasn't just Joan and each person, but also the other people. Do you see what I'm saying?
yes,
Like,
yes,
we
I
had multiple like sort of relationship dynamics that we knew about.
yes, I found that to be so interesting because I think it's so hard to write a huge cast of characters, and especially like a huge cast of characters that like right off the bat you have to start caring about these people really fast, like the book kind of forces you to. And I think that's such a challenge and very ambitious for her to have done, and I felt like, yeah, the more we read the more intriguing it got to see exactly kind of I don't know how to explain this well, but like almost like all the politics, if you can say, involved in the group. Like it's like
Yeah.
the relationship that Joan had to one woman who like was like very soft and warm towards her, versus the relationship she had to another woman who was like very like scared of losing her place because she is a woman.
Right.
And versus like the men, and some of the men who were a bit Misogynistic, yep. And then other men who were like quite like great with their allyship, but also at the same time you're just like, wow, the bar's on the floor, you know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
so it's just like, I don't know, there's just like there was so much kind of at play there, and like the more you read, the more you kind of got to unfold and see kind of like not one relationship was similar to the others, like they all felt
Right.
very distinct and interesting, and I thought that was very smart and well done.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I said, like I don't think and I wonder if I wouldn't have read so much of it in like one
One
sitting,
sitting.
if
I
I would have
also,
different feelings. But
yeah.
you know, I don't know. I almost think also like I don't know, this might sound weird, but like almost like the beginning was too good, and then so then it was like the rest of the book didn't live up for me. Like
Okay.
I wonder if we wouldn't have opened with that, high stakes scene, and we just started, sort of from the beginning, like chronologically, if I would
Mm,
have been more open to it, I guess.
okay. That's
And
interesting.
there's a few things like which we can talk about in the spoiler section because it's more specific, but like
Yeah.
there's just a few things in the book that I know are going to be my personal thoughts and opinions
Mm-hmm.
that personally just, I guess, rubbed me the wrong way. And so then it's like hard for me, like, then I just felt sort of put off by things. And so then it's like, then it affected how I was able to
Yeah. I know
read the
exactly
rest
what
of
you're
the book.
talking about. And when I read it, I was like, oh, I'm nervous for Laura's feelings about it. Because I knew I was like, if she doesn't like that, then I feel like you're probably going to be a little annoyed at the book for some
Yeah.
way.
And I just have strong convictions, and,
Yeah.
that's just who I am. So, and I like that about myself, so I'm not going to change that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and I'm open to reading things in books. But it's like, it just made me, I was just like, can we just get back to when they're flying the spaceship? Like,
Okay. Okay.
like I don't know. Just
Okay.
the middle whole part, like the first 20 pages, I was like wrapped. And then the last like 5 pages, everything in the middle, I was like, okay, like,
Mm,
I just feel like I understood every. I'm not trying to say like I knew better than like the author, but I just feel like I understood her Jones like relationship dynamic with each character within the first two interactions she had with each character, and
mm-hmm.
nothing like progressed enough in a way like that. I felt like we just need to get into the non-spoilers.
Okay.
I can't like speak specifically, but anyways, so I would recommend this book if you like, first of all, if you like space stuff at
Mm-hmm.
all, like, because that's what like is what was super interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like a romance and you like a I don't know, like a book that's like romance based but also with other plot around it, like
Yeah.
I feel like this is like the perfect, because it's definitely a romance book but not just romance. I don't know, it
Yeah.
has like other stuff going on. um I'm not a huge romance reader in general, so that's also just my personal preference, is why I think I just was less interested during the middle part.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But if that's like your thing, like, and like, navigating, making hard life decisions when you're really between like a rock and a hard place, and it's like either way you go is, you're going to be making compromises, like that was sort of a central theme. So if that's something that like you would like to read about and like, feel feelings about, like,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I think this is like a great book for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think it's a great book if you're interested in like just a really good, like Laura and I were saying, lived in historical fiction book. Like
Yeah.
genuinely feels like I am reading the story of a real person's life. But she's just not. I think that like this does something really special, and um Yeah, I think too. It's just like a very like emotionally charged book in like many different ways. So like if you're like wanting a book to kind of, I think for me it was a bit of a sucker punch. And so if you're feeling like that, start off your new year right. Like truly, like maybe try to read this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want my beginning thoughts to turn anyone away from reading this, because I really do see the appeal, and I definitely, there are lots of things that I enjoyed about it, but there was also some things that I have critiques on, I guess is what I would say.
Okay.
Which I think is totally fine, but like I think, like, I don't like regret reading this or anything like
Right.
that, you know?
Right.
So, and I definitely see like, I see a lot of the merit in it, and a lot of like what other people would really like about it.
Yeah.
So I'm not recommending it, if that makes sense.
Okay. Whew. All right. Well, I guess we should get into our spoiler section.
Okay.
All right. So, everyone leave if you don't want spoilers. But if you do want spoilers, hey, what's up? Welcome to part 2 of our sleepover. Okay. Where do you want to start? I'm assuming you have things that you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna go off something I was just saying. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like from sort of some of the first interactions of Joan and Frances, I was like, okay, so at what point in the book is she gonna adopt her and become her sole caregiver?
Right. Frances is the niece, by the way, to anybody who doesn't remember. Yes.
And it's sort of that sort of thing of like that's just one example where I feel like every time that Joan was having an interaction with her sister Barbara and the daughter Frances, like it was like the same point was being made every single time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, at what point are we gonna like, is this gonna progress? And it took until almost like the very end of the book for that to happen, whereas like, not like, oh, I'd called that from the beginning, but just like it seemed like the natural progression. And it just was like, I just feel like I had to read about it so many times without like things happening. And that's just one example of how I felt about many aspects.
Interesting. I think for me, with the Frances Barbara, who's Joan's sisters, like that whole kind of story, I will say out of all of the different, like, you know, like plot A, plot B, plot C, out of all of those, I would say it was my least favorite of the 3, but like I still really enjoyed it and found it interesting. What I thought was so interesting was like I like it didn't end up the way that I as the reader wanted it to end up. I really wanted Barbara to come to her senses, but like it felt like every time we met with her, she sunk her heels in deeper to like whatever character she was. And as somebody who like I find myself like terrified of being in any situation that like Joan found herself in, where it's like I've maybe said this on the podcast before, but it's a bit personal, but like I don't really want kids, and I'm forever terrified that I'm going to end up in a situation where I will be responsible for children that I did not have. And I think that it's like that plays such a role in like, you know, Joan's whole kind of journey. I felt so much anxiety for her every single time that when like her career wasn't being taken seriously by her sister, when like she had to sacrifice something because she loves her niece so much and she wants it, like she wants to do it, and like that relationship is so important to her, and like doing it right because of her own experience with her family wasn't done as properly as it could have been, I think was so like heartbreaking, but like also like gratifying to read, because it's just like Joan's such a, I loved reading about Joan because I thought she was a character with like the most strong moral backbone I've ever read. Like I just felt very safe in a lot of her choices. So with Barbara, I felt like it was such an interesting choice to not have that character mature.
Yeah, she really does not.
No, she does, like, and I think obviously because Joan being somebody who, like I said, has a very strong morals, she doesn't want to give up on anybody. She doesn't want to
Yeah.
make her family. She doesn't want to turn away from her family. She doesn't want to think her sister is a bad parent. But like she does know deep down that like she does not agree with many of what Barbara is doing in her parenting, and Barbara never listens. Oh man, she's crazy.
Yeah.
She was so hard to read.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I understand kind of why that like that stagnant kind of almost like I guess flat character maybe
Yeah.
would be kind of grating and annoying, and like just like, okay, are we gonna develop, or are we just gonna cut all this kind of
Yeah.
repetition? But like I found that to be a really interesting choice, and like I said kind of earlier, all of that, even though it was a bit repetitive maybe in the way that instances were happening, it felt to me like it was only adding tension
Yeah.
to the ultimate bubble kind of popping toward the end.
That's fair. Yeah.
So it's like I was more nervous about like Frances. Like I was like,
Yeah. Me too.
I was really sad whenever we were talking to her in boarding school. Like that like
oh my gosh.
broke my heart. And then like, oh, my favorite scene is when she has this big fight with Joan has this big fight with Barbara about Frances, and Barbara ultimately gives up her daughter, and she's like, you should just take her. And Joan's obviously like, no, like this is like, you can't just give up your kid. And then,
Yeah.
you know, ultimately she realizes there's no way out, and she has this conversation with Frances in the, like, she picks up Frances from boarding school, and she has this conversation with her, and she says, I've been talking to your mom, and I think I finally got her to agree to something, and like, why don't you come live with me? And I just like, something about her framing it as like, I finally got her to like let you come stay with me for a while.
Yeah. She did a really good job. Joan did a really good job of always framing things in a way that didn't like demonize her mom to her as much as she could, you know?
Yes, because I know that Frances probably knows deep down that like a part of her mom is not wanting of her, unfortunately.
Right.
And it's like, and it's nothing to do with Frances. It's completely to do with her mom's own responsibility levels and just maturity.
Yeah.
But like the fact that like she has someone like Joan who's constantly putting first that like, you're my favorite person, you're the only person I like want to make happy, like I'll do anything. And then also to have someone like Joan being like, yeah, like never framing it so that way Frances ever thinks she's the problem, I think is doing actually like wonders for her. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting that you like hearing your perspective, because you say like, you know, you don't want kids, and you would feel fearful if you ended up in a place like Joan, so it caused you like anxiety from her point of view. On the flip side, I have always thought, you know, my sisters have a lot of kids, and I have contemplated, not that I think my sisters would be like anything like Barbara, but just if something in life happened where like they needed a guardian, I had already made the decision, and hi my sisters if you're listening, but it's like I would drop everything in my life to like be with them. I would leave New York, I would get a desk job, like I would do anything. And that doesn't, while I know it would be hard, of course, and it would feel scary in the moment, like that to me is so clear. Like if my nieces or nephews like needed me to be the mom in their life or whatever, like I would just be like, well, of course.
yeah.
So for me reading Joan, I'm like, what is taking her so long? Why won't she just like, she obviously like loves Frances so much based on the way that it's written in the book, you know, she's always thinking about her and always wanting the best for her, and she knows so, you know, deeply that Barbara isn't giving that to her. And I understand that, like, you know, Joan also, her preference would be that Barbara would step up and be the mom that she should be.
Yeah.
Right? That's like what you would want to try to fix first, as opposed to just taking Frances away from her mom into a different situation. But it's interesting, we just have two very different perspectives. So for me reading that, I was just like, I don't understand like what's taking her so long to just realize that like she could just take in Franny and like everything would be better in a way.
I feel, cause I was also talking to Haley about this earlier because she also read the book, and so we were kind of giving our takes. And she said something that was so interesting, and I want to credit her. But she was like, one thing that is so interesting that this book does is it constantly shows that even if you're a single woman, you're constantly expected to take on like a family role.
Yeah.
Especially in the 80s. Like, it's like, I think that's something that's so seen in this book. Like, with, I think of Donna, like, and like Joan calls it out. So there's like someone on her team named Donna who gets married to another person on their team named Hank, and Donna becomes pregnant, and Joan thinks like she's gonna have to give up 6 months of her career for this, and Hank gets to go to space in 6 months, and like stuff like that. And I thought it was so interesting the way like so much of it was framed in this book. Like, Barbara, even though she was the one who put the thought of applying to NASA in Joan's head, never took it seriously. Where like Joan's like career was like so important to her up until obviously meeting Vanessa, and then like realizing that like this secret relationship that she has is also like a huge thing. Like, she's building a life with somebody. And I also found it to be, you know, she had like 3 things she was juggling, I think, in the fact that all 3 of them could never really coalesce in her head in the 80s. So it's like Frances, Vanessa, and her job at NASA. Yeah. All of them were kind of in direct conflict with each other. And so I think that's truly what was really pushing her from realizing that like Barbara's not fit to be a mom. I have to step up, like, along with her like real faith and hope in like the humanity of Barbara to become a better parent. I think it's also just like she didn't want to have to admit that things were so bad because she was already juggling so much that she knew was not compatible with her situation with Frances. And so that's why I'm saying like I felt like the emotional stakes in those chapters were like so crazy to me, because I was like, there's so much happening. It's the 80s, and also it's like not even considering like everything going on with Joan. Like, it's like even outside of that, like there's like things like the AIDS epidemic happening, and like things that are outside of like Joan's control, like Sally Ride is mentioned, and like there was nothing they could do about it. But if everything with like Sally Ride being the first woman to go to space, if any of that crumbled, like they like, what was the point of them being at NASA? You know, like people would have immediately lost faith in that. Right. Things like, I don't know, there's just like also just like spaceflight being so new. That was also just such like a little like small undercurrent throughout all of this. I was like really, we've only been doing this for like, I don't know, 30 years or something. Like, we've only been successfully doing it for like 20. And so I don't know. I thought like there was I had so many like really like positive thoughts with like kind of the way that like Taylor Jenkins Reid decided, the fact that she decided to write a woman scientist who like was one of the first women to really get into NASA's space program, and then also it being the 80s and having like, we all know that the 80s is when Sally Ride became the first woman to go to space, so that was obviously also a huge catalyst for so much of history in the United States. And also just like her being a queer woman, I think is also like so much, like I just felt like this was such a good story to write for the time that she wanted to write about it, and like the subject that she wanted to write about. It all felt very like yes. I don't know.
Yeah, there definitely was like a lot of tension and conflict in different parts of her life. Where should we go from here?
Great question. Do we want to talk about like the very beginning and how it starts out with the I can't even remember what the conflict is. It's like the ship, there's a leak in the ship.
Yeah.
So there's a leak in the ship.
So it's like they had set something up to blast. I don't know what the point was. I don't remember. But when that happened, it like malfunctioned or it blasted wrong, and
Yes.
something hit the ship and also one of the astronauts because they didn't like
Yes.
close the hatch because they wanted to watch,
Yes.
which is just like crazy. Like that is like nightmare fuel. Like
This is okay. Also, as much as I loved, because I really actually, I know you said you maybe had conflicting feelings about it, but I really loved that we started out with like the conflict of the book in the 1st chapter. Like we're starting at the close. I love when any story starts at the close. But also though, but the problem is that usually it takes me like a little bit of time to get warmed up to a book and really turn on my like my lights in my head. And so yeah, a lot of like the technical stuff in that first chapter I think went over my head. I was just like, what, there's a leak in the ship and this guy's suit is like ripped into. Yeah, but yes,
I was
you're
thinking
right.
about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 when they like, you know, when they like basically throw the people out of the ship.
Yes. Oh,
You know,
I
is
hate
that like
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like that's what's about to happen to all these people, you know?
Yeah.
Like oh, that's scary.
The part where like, because it's Vanessa and Griff, I believe, who are kind of like out from the actual shuttle, I guess, and like you said like, you know, something like hit an astronaut and that was Griff.
Yeah.
And like when he's like looking down and like he's like, I'm fine, and like in like her perspective she's like, we both know that like he cannot operate out here with like a hole in his suit, like I just there's so many things that were like really that had like were happening so quickly in that. I remember I was reading it in public with my roommate. She was working on something and I was just reading this book and I had to, at the end of like maybe like that first chapter, I like had to close the book and I was like, I feel sick. Like I feel ill.
No, literally, like it is such a like, because you're just like thrown into this dire situation and it's like and I couldn't believe that they like duct taped a clipboard to the wall and that somehow
I know. And here's what's so fab is that Lydia did it, and like the whole book Lydia is kind of like a menace. She's just like she reminded me a lot of I can't remember what her name was, but the secretary from Lessons in Chemistry. Where it's like, you know, she is all for like inclusion, like women inclusion and like equality and like yes, female empowerment, but only when it applies to her the most. Like she really is kind of hurting. Oh my god, hi Belly. Sorry, Belly just jumped up on my chair. She's kind of hurting herself more in the process than she realizes, because she's really not standing her ground when it comes to a lot of these men. She's just trying to be seen as one of the men. But as we know, the men are never going to see women as equals, at least in the 80s. And so so it's like really like a moot point. Like it's pointless for her to even try to do that. But she's the one who ultimately ends up saving them, and same with Vanessa. Like Vanessa's the one who ends up saving them, and then Joan commanding her. Like, I'm like, it's so interesting. What I thought was so incredible about this book was the whole time, because obviously it's such a huge deal to have these women be the first to like actually get into the space program and like really like go to space and everything. But there is this thing where you're realizing people are giving them the platform and the opportunities to do this, but quietly I think there is a lot of people thinking that it's going to fail, or like never really seeing them as important as the men, which it seemed like, you know, Vanessa wants to be a pilot, but like you can only be a pilot if you were a war pilot, and they don't let women be war pilots. So really there's that thing
which
in place.
We learned in Mercury 13.
I know. I was like, I know that. But like, you know, it's like those small kind of hurdles put in there that like, you know, technically no one can call you out on it, but like really the quiet part is kind of there. But like, you know, the whole time it's like they're telling you that like, well, like really they're counting on the men to really like finish this strong and like do this journey or whatever. But then at the end it's like only the women are really responsible for getting that ship down there and having Lydia and Vanessa both survive.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I was like, immediately, like all of the men are incapacitated, cannot help at all,
Yeah.
and it really just has to be the women that like
Yeah.
finish this journey strong. And I just found that to be so good. Like, I just
Yeah.
really loved that.
That's so true. That's so true. Okay, so relating to what you said, first of all, I hadn't quite picked up that you're so right that it was like Lydia who taped the thing and then Joan who, was Capcomming
Yeah.
and Vanessa who was, flying, and it really was the women who
Mhm.
manned that, shuttle back to Earth.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to something you said a bit ago about like the misogynistic jokes and stuff, and
Yeah.
Lydia being the one to like, laugh along, and she's like we need to, fit in with the guys because like that's the only way we're going to
Yeah.
like get ahead. And so I just sort of and I know this is going to be not everyone's opinion, but it's my opinion.
Okay.
Like I just sort of took issue with Joan being like, you need to not join in with the misogyny. And then she like goes to the strip club and she's like, oh, I finally understand for the first time why men like to look at women so much. It just seemed a little bit like she's like calling out her colleague for not um standing up for, like, or at least not engaging with the men's misogynistic whatever they're saying.
Mhm.
Like she's like, you shouldn't play along with that. And then the whole group's like, let's go to the club.
Mhm.
And then like she's there and the women are dancing, woo, whatever.
Mhm.
But then like I just I think I just didn't really like that her breakthrough was that she was realizing like, oh, like I see what all the men see. It's like,
Mm.
weren't you just making the point that you should not be the same as the men and not just play into like their same thoughts?
Mhm.
But then she like goes to, a place where women are barely dressed, and it's like, whether that's like your thing or not, like that's not the point I'm trying to make, but like it just seemed like she was so vigilant about that until it served her to, because then she was like attracted to the women, and I think that's sort of when she's realizing like she's maybe sort of finally admitting to herself that like she is attracted to women.
Mm.
It seemed counterintuitive to me to the Joan that was saying you need to not agree with the men and let them say this and that about the women.
Mhm.
But if I go to a strip club and watch a woman strip, then like then I'm going to realize I get it what the men are saying. Like I don't know. I just didn't like it. I just didn't feel
Okay.
like it was true to her character and
That's
what we were
valid.
led to believe her character um would have stood for, because in so much of the book she is not as open to like speaking or thinking um like with like adult like adult content, like when the
Yeah.
other pilots and stuff, or the other people in the program are like having those open conversations, you can tell that that's like not really her thing.
Mhm.
It just,
Yes.
to me it seems like that was used as like a shock factor to the reader, and ooh, like she's gonna be edgy and this is how she's gonna find out she's attracted to women. And to me it cheapened the relationship that she's then going to develop with Vanessa, because I'm like, she's such a like feminist and doesn't want the people to be okay with the men saying this and that, but then she's
Mm-hmm.
gonna fall in love with a woman finally because she watched women at the strip club. It just, to me, it does not, it doesn't click to me with who her character was.
I think that's valid. I had a different take on it because I think there's a part where when it's all happening, she's talking about the movement and like the women and their bodies, and she's like, I've never thought of feeling that like confident and comfortable in my own body. And I think that is talking a lot about, you know, Joan being Joan. The worst thing she's ever done is like tattletale on her sister. Like, she's never had a real boyfriend before in her
Uh-huh.
mind. She's hasn't really like, she is a very like, I think, pure, if you want to say that, kind of person in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
because she's just very, I don't know, like that's just kind of who she is. And I thought that scene was actually kind of interesting because I felt like she was finally seeing herself as equal to these women. Like, she was like, I've never thought of like viewing myself like that, and that was the catalyst for her sexuality, like her sexual awakening
Mhm.
almost in a way. um it was less so, I think, in my head when I was reading it. I didn't see her so much of basing it around men, even though it is kind of mentioned. But like, I was reading kind of it in more into the way that it was impacting how she was feeling about herself and like viewing herself in equal eyes to the women who were dancing and performing. I don't know, like I just never felt like it was like a weird thing for her. It does feel
Yeah.
off character, but like it's very much like stated while she's there that she feels uncomfortable and doesn't know what to do and like all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And so that felt very true to her.
Well, another thing I was going to say along with that
Mhm.
while you think on that is
Mhm.
like she later, when like she and Vanessa are like, they're like really together now,
Yeah.
they bring up that night and she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like, you how would you know something like how would you know you left so early?" And she was like, "Well, I left so early cuz like I couldn't stand like watching you watch the women."
Mhm.
So like I understand what you're saying about like, she's like having internal thought,
Mhm.
but it's like at the end of the day, she was still watching the women in a provocative, gazing upon, voyeuristic manner, in my
Mhm.
thoughts and
Mhm.
opinions. And like so much so that Vanessa, who was also there, was, it made her feel a reaction because she's seeing Joan sort of enjoy watching the women, or be amazed by it, or whatever like that feeling is like.
Mhm.
So there's still a level of her watching them, because it's not like she just walked in there and was like, whoa, this is cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's like she's like, I mean, I imagine her like silent, eyes wide open, like sort of overwhelmed because she's never like seen something like that before, like I don't think she's ever been in a strip club before.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, whoa, like so much is happening, but entranced in a sense. And like, so she's still, and like she goes home and she's trying to like, she does her drawings and stuff, she's trying to like recreate that image, and which I don't think is like inherently wrong or anything, but it's like she obviously was
Mhm.
like viewing it in a, what I would call, a voyeuristic manner. And
Okay.
to me that feels incongruent with her, because like that's like what you would think, that like that's what the strip clubs are for, is for men to go do that. And so then for her to go do that, and but just earlier that day at work she's like, why are you laughing at the men's, offensive jokes for us? But then by the way, after work I'm going to go do what the men do
Mhm.
to other women.
I
You see what I'm
think
saying?
I think part of the thing though for me and why it's totally okay with me is because obviously men can view women very inappropriately at strip clubs. And I'm not condoning everything that happens in a strip club, because obviously I understand there's a lot of layers to it. But I don't know. I just think that it's like, for Joan, obviously, I think it's just different to her. Like with the, I don't know. Again, like, it's like, for me, it was fine, because I felt like she was, when she was given the chance to kind of like actually like see women kind of in a more provocative sense, maybe it did open it obviously opened her mind more to like realizing that is what she wanted, because she's never given herself that opportunity before.
Right.
But also it's like I never felt like it was done in poor taste on her part, at least, because the entire time she was just like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about like possessing confidence in that way. I've never, like, how do I get my skin to be this soft? How can I do this? Like, stuff like that. It just didn't read weird to me, but I get why it read weird to you.
I don't know, their relationship to me was just sort of boring. And like I just didn't really care, I think because I was put off from the beginning. And also I just feel like they liked to like look at the stars and sleep over, and I'm like, is there anything else that we like to do? Like, I just feel like there was no, similar to how I felt like every time Joan is like having an interaction with Barbara and Francis, like, to me it felt like sort of the same thing happening, just with a different dialogue or a different day. I feel like so much of what we read about Vanessa and Joan was just like the same thing over and over. Like, one of them goes to the other one's house, they sleep over, they wake up, they go to work. Like, I just was like very bored reading about them. I think they had a few good moments, like when she takes her out for the first time to teach her like the constellations and stuff. Like, I really liked that, and I was like, this is a really sweet moment between them. And like, Vanessa has asked for help, and Joan is, so excited to help her because she's so passionate about the stars and the cosmos and stuff. And I feel like there was like 2 moments like that, and then everything else was just, oh, now I'm knocking on her door, now she's knocking on my door, and oops, we have to hide it at work. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, I think this is why I was just like sort of bored for so much of the book, because I just feel like nothing was happening. Like, I was reading that the characters were going through their day, but I didn't feel like much was happening.
I don't know. I felt like I had very different experiences, because I felt like what they had, yes, I don't think maybe there were a lot of events maybe to like move their relationship forward, but I just felt like a lot of their dialogue was so like words of affirmation heavy that like felt really beautiful for me. I think like immediately the fact that they have like this established curiosity that is very quickly formed into like respect and like understanding of each other. I love there's like so many different lines, I think, where it's just like, there's that one line where like Vanessa says to Joan, like, it's like my whole life I've been like trying to figure out why I like the color blue so much, but like how can you explain the color blue to someone who has no idea what the color blue is? But like you just described the color blue to me by talking about like your love of space. Things like that. Like, I just feel like there's so many moments where it's so cemented in their relationship how much they appreciate and respect and love each other, and then it's only just completely reaffirmed in like that last 20 pages when Vanessa is like trying her best to get the space shuttle home, and she makes that decision to not try to close the, I can't remember where it is, but like the door
the
panel
or the door,
because she wants to try and save Lydia, but that means that her life is more at stake. And there's this unspoken thing between them where it's just like Joan knows what's going to happen before it even happens, and Vanessa's like, I have to do this, and I have to think that like Joan's going to understand because she loves me and she knows this is what I have to do. And Joan's of course is like, if she didn't do this, I wouldn't love her in the same way. Like, obviously, like, I knew that. So I just think there's just so many things that like are just like reaffirmed in their relationship about how like it's just like all respect, curiosity that blooms into a very like solid love that even that is so much kind of almost off the page. Like I thought the time skips were really interesting, and how we go from like meeting, or they go from like staying over at each other's places a lot and forming like real a domestic kind of life together, and then Joan wants her to meet Francis, and like you know, Vanessa has to confront the fact like, should I meet some like a partner's family? I've never done that before. And I've also never even had like called anyone my girlfriend before, but I've also never been in love before. And it's like, I think there were these little emotional relationship moments that like really tethered me personally to the story, which is why I really enjoyed it. Like I felt locked into this relationship. I really, really liked it. And also it's just like, yeah, then the added pressure of like, God, like, how are we going to get out of this? Because like the story is formed on the fact that we want Joan to succeed so much at NASA. And then it's like, okay, well, what could be the only thing that can like threaten her time at NASA? And it's like, oh, her love for Joan, or sorry, Vanessa. And same with Vanessa, like Vanessa's love for Joan. And so it's like, it's so interesting that there's like almost like a pivot of priorities for us as the readers in the book, where it's like we have to figure out like, oh my God, how like what comes first, and like how can we make this work? I thought their fight was really interesting too. They have that huge blow up fight where like Joan tries to end it, and then Vanessa's like so angry at her, and she calls her from like the payphone outside her house, and she's like, how dare you like show me and tell me that like a life like built together is something I actually want, and then you try to take it away without even asking me for my opinions on it. Like, I'm not gonna have that happen. Like I like, you're above NASA for me. And I thought that was like such a beautiful thing. Like they really did at the end of the day choose themselves over NASA, but then like at the very end it's like Vanessa chooses, like she has to choose in that moment herself over both Joan and NASA, because she could not live with herself if Lydia did not make it with her. And so there's just a lot there, but I really liked it.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I just had like such a different opinion, and like I wrote down on page 215, like I don't know if this is like before or after that fight. I feel like it's before, but you know, they're saying like they both said awful things to each other. It was the first time, you know, they're saying these different things and like blah blah blah. And like my my feelings, like what I wrote down is like, so break up, LOL, like question mark. I'm just like, I don't know, like I'm just like, okay, like if you guys are that mean to each other and saying like you're feel driven to like shout cruel things at your partner, like I'm just, the way I'm seeing it is like, so why are we together? Like if it's that difficult and that's how you resort to talking about it, like I'm just like, ooh, okay. Right, like why do we need to keep this going?
I felt so different with that scene. I am somebody who I am terrified of conflict. I hate conflict. Every time I have conflict, I feel like I turn into the worst version of myself. And I feel like that scene was so comforting for me to read, because there's that line where she says something about how is it exactly that two people could scar each other like that and keep going, in fact go deeper. How is it that Joan could know that Vanessa did not mean some of those, or did mean some of those things, that Joan could admit to herself in quiet moments that she meant some of what she said too, but somehow the effect was to be tied together even more tightly. Like I feel like that was such a beautiful thing. And I mean, I come from a family that like loves conflict. They love yelling at each other. And it's like a lot of times, yeah, it's like you can see that as like so much like why would you want to continue that? I felt it was so beautiful to know that in spite of the worst versions of themselves, they still consistently choose to love each other, and they love
Yeah.
each other even because of the ugly versions.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful, and also not very easy to explain. And I liked that we got examples of some of the mean things that they said to each other. And
Yeah.
then being like, even with this, like,
Yeah.
we cherish our relationship so much.
Yeah.
I liked that. I really liked that.
And I don't disagree with that sentiment that you have, because it's like, right, everybody in any relationship ever, like, there's gonna be a time where you hurt each other's feelings, and like, that's just life, and that's just being human. But I think it's just because for so much of this book I was curious what I was rooting for them, that then it's like, okay, well, if there's this many issues, like, like, I was just having trouble. Like, I feel like what I rooted for both of them was to feel like peace and love and security in their lives.
Sure.
And like, if they were gonna find that together, then that was worth rooting for me. But for so much of it, I didn't feel like they had peace and love and security together, especially when I'm reading that they're fighting and they're yelling at each other. So I think that is like, that's why when I read that scene, I was primed from my my previous thoughts that it didn't come across to me the way that it came across to you, which I think it's totally valid what you say. Like,
yeah. I guess if you're not already attached to the couple, then like, it is kind of like when like your friend is like, oh my god, my boyfriend's being so mean, and you're like, break up.
Right, exactly. Like, that's like, how I felt about it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, like you've got no lot of skin in the game. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's valid.
Yeah, but I had a text to show, which I think you'll like.
Okay, yes.
Because it's to Parks and Rec. So it's on page 304. Let's see if I can see what the context is here. Okay, so this is when like Vanessa's telling. This is like right when she's about to attempt to break up with Vanessa. Joan's about to attempt to break up with Vanessa, and Joan is saying like, NASA knows, basically. NASA knows that we're like secretly dating.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, they don't. Like, like, well, maybe Steve's wrong. And so Vanessa's kind of saying like, well, we can just make it work in this way and that, and like blah 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 blah. And Joan is saying like, no, we can't. Like, we can't. If I want to have my career and you want to have yours, like, we can't just keep doing what we've been doing, because obviously it's not working. And it made me think of in Parks and Rec when Ben and Leslie are dating, but then she's like gonna run for office and he's her boss. So they eventually decide like, we need to break up for the best interest of our careers, because our careers are important to us.
Yes.
And Leslie's like, well, but why can't we just like hang out and do this and do that and do that? And Ben is like, because you can't just like chop up the bits of a relationship and pick and choose what you want. Like, that's not how it works. And that's, it's hurtful to him.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was like, Vanessa was trying to be like, well, but we can just blah blah blah. And Joan's like, no, I'm telling you, like, that like, I can't do that. We can't do that. It's not fair to me, and it's not fair to you. And I don't know, I was more on Joan's side. I was kind of like, I was a little bit frustrated that Vanessa was like, you, like, I don't know, you don't get to tell me, like, I don't know.
I mean, but like the counter of that is just like, so they're never going to be able to be in a happy relationship ever with anyone, like, if it is Joan, like, Joan was so content, I believe, to just like go back to whatever life she was living before she met Vanessa. And I was like, it's so much more tragic. It's like that Taylor Swift line where she says, could it be enough to just float in your orbit? Like, it's like, no, it could never be enough. Like, their lives, I think, would add, like, there'd be so much turmoil and like sadness there that, like, if they didn't find a way to persevere, it would have been so much sadder to me.
Right. Well, and if you think about in Parks and Rec, like, Leslie and Ben, choose to make the decision to come forward and say they're dating, and then they face a lot of repercussions because of it. Yeah. And Ben has to quit his job. Leslie's like losing her thing. So it's like, when you make that decision together that it's worth the risk and it's worth the
Yeah.
consequence, then I think that is really beautiful, which is I think what they were getting to at the end, you know, like at the very end, because the one guy is like, you know, it's okay, Joan, you can tell her what you want to tell her, which I think was him kind of saying like almost like you can tell her you love her was what I was thinking he was meaning, like,
Yeah.
you know, in this dire circumstance. And I
Yeah,
think they were
yeah.
both ready at that point to like whatever was going to happen with their jobs was like way less important to them than having
lives.
each other. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, like I agree with you there, like, and it got to that point eventually, but I just like I just thought of in that moment, like I felt like Vanessa was being a little bit selfish when Joan was trying to say, which I guess some people would say Joan was being selfish, but like, you know, she's saying, no, we need to not be together for the best interest of me and you and like our situation. And Vanessa's like, but why can't we just keep doing this and doing that? And, you know,
right.
I don't know.
I mean, that's fine. That's valid. I do think it was like it had points in that moment. I was like, okay, but like actually though, how are we getting out of this? Okay, like how are we getting out of this? Because NASA does know.
Right.
And it just turned. I think I was then satisfied enough with just Vanessa being like, you're over NASA. Like I choose you. If something were to happen, I'm okay with everything burning down. And then I also thought it was really great that at the end there is no epilogue. There is no wrap up of the situation. I fully believe they both left NASA after that because I don't think Vanessa probably got fired. Like, there's no coming back from that for Joan, at least. And so I think post all of this is just building their life together and healing from all of this. And I think even in that fictional world, that's quite beautiful for me. Like just knowing like Vanessa, Francis are somehow making it work.
Yeah.
Even in like, you know, I think just such a scary time to be in their positions as like women who are trying to have a partnership together. Like obviously the 80s are not like that. Are not cool like that, you know? So it's like it's tough. But I don't know. I think I really liked actually like where their relationship ended. Because to me it all worked out. But
yeah. Oh, I agree. I like that it was open-ended.
Yeah.
And I think what you described is like that's what I imagined too, and I feel like that's sort of not like that's what you're supposed to think, but like that's like a nice natural conclusion to come to without having to say it like explicitly.
Yeah. I was so scared where this was gonna go. The last 2 pages, I was like, we've got 2 pages to wrap this up. Like, is Vanessa dying or is she okay? And then it's like literally like you don't know until the last like 2 lines. Yeah. And then I honestly really liked like the end of it too. Where like Vanessa just goes, hi, and Joan just takes a breath and she goes, hi. And it was like maybe they had not asked for too much, maybe they would get everything they wanted. Like it's like to have 20 pages of pure panic and like adrenaline and like like Joan comes to the conclusion that Vanessa's dead, right? And she has this whole moment, and this is why I say I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is so good at like providing band-aids for the wounds that she like gives you, because like she has this whole moment where she was like, oh, but like to love her was beautiful, and like she's already trying to you know, heal herself or like figure out a way to make the worst thing to happen to her okay. Yeah. And so she's like, it's almost like Taylor Jenkins Reid was like holding your hand being like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then, but you're like, you know, devastated. And then it's like, oh, and then it all works out kind of in a way where it's like, I loved that like the place that it left me was like, you know, because it was such an abrupt, not so much a happily ever after, but like as much of a happily ever after as it could have been. I think then that also like really still puts so much stake in the fact that like it like just because Vanessa and Lydia made it out does not make the sting of everyone else on that, you know, ship who died any less. Like I really grieved all of those people too, even though I like didn't know them very well. It's I don't know. I really, really liked the ending. and I thought I was gonna like emotionally wreck me in one way, and then it emotionally wrecked me in the other way in the last like
Yeah.
5 sentences, and I thought that was really incredibly done.
Yeah, I was really glad that she survived because, like I said, when I think it's Antonio tells her, like,
Mm-hmm.
Joan, like, you can tell Vanessa what you want to say. I thought that was when Joan was gonna say, like, I love you, Vanessa, and that would be like
Yeah.
their like goodbye. But then she didn't say that, so then I was like, if she dies and they didn't get to like say I love you,
Mm-hmm.
like that was gonna like
Hurt
crush
you.
me. So
Yeah.
I was like very glad that
Yeah.
she landed and survived
Yeah.
because that was gonna be hard.
But I really did like their coded conversation that they had there. Like
Yeah.
they were like talking about like, oh, the Bert and Ernie song. I can't. That was really sad for me. Where she was like, it was the Bert and Ernie song because really I'm just up here and all I want to do is go home.
Yeah.
And like she's saying, oh my God, where she goes, do you know why I kept saying the best song was Space Oddity? Because of your favorite part? When he says, tell my wife I love her very much, Vanessa says. And then he says, she knows, Joan says. Yeah, that's it. That's the best part of the song. But do you think she knows? Do you really think she knows? She knows, Joan says. She absolutely knows. Okay, Vanessa says, I can live with that. Like that
Yeah.
packed such a punch for me. I love a
Yeah.
callback to an earlier conversation. I love like the tying up of all of that and the fact that it's like it's so painful because yeah, you're right. They can't just come out and say it. They could never come out and just say it. There's too much there. Even when Vanessa's life is at stake, like they're still thinking of that.
Right.
But like the way that they say it, I think is like so beautiful and like it just the layers to it make it so much more impactful for me personally than if they were
Yeah.
ever able to just be like, I love you straight out.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it.
It's like I have a few more critiques, but I'm like I don't want to bring your vibe down.
Go off. It's okay. This is an equal conversation.
Okay. Trying to decide like what's the better. Okay. I just have again, this is from my personal life experience and stuff.
Okay.
And I feel like I kind of talked about this when we read Lessons in Chemistry, but then I cut it all out. I think I was the one who edited that video and I
really?
cut it all out. But I always get nervous when God and religion is brought up in books. More so like adult fiction books, because I feel like with YA it's like it's meant to be a little more juvenile and easily digestible.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of talk of God in this book, which I'm not against. But I just feel like some of the takes were just it was just like so just like typical, and it's like I don't know, like this book is new, so I know it's not like this was the first book to be written about this topic, and I feel like I'm just like feel tired of like reading like every other adult fiction book I read, and it's always going to be like the edgy empowered character is the one that's going to be like anti-Catholic like every time. I found it curious because Joan seemed to be Christian to some degree. She said she believed in God.
Yeah.
But then she's trying to describe like the God that she believes in, and she's like, a God that blah blah blah, a God that blah blah blah. And I'm just like I know that I, have a different perspective on this than maybe the typical reader, but I'm just curious what the author's point of all of that was, because to me it just seemed like a chance for Vanessa, the Vanessa character to get the point across that, like, there's bad people that are Catholic that are always gonna like be judgmental or not hear someone out for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. And like, that's not untrue. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are people that are like that. So I'm not saying it's wrong to write that. But I just feel like it's like every time it's always that.
Sure.
And, and then it's like, but then we have Joan sort of debating her almost in a way
Mm-hmm.
and saying, well, I believe because blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how do I talk about this without making it be about just my personal beliefs? Like, I just didn't really understand why we had Joan's character like pushing so hard or like de- kind of debating or like discussing with Vanessa about such a relativist God figure, because she's saying like, well, I believe in God, but I believe in this, and maybe that's really what God is, or this and that's what God is. And it's like, that's not so different than what Vanessa was saying. It just felt like
Mm.
we were I have a hard time understanding what the author's purpose of this discussion was,
Mm-hmm.
because I did not, again, this is me personally, I did not find it like moving or insightful. I found it like, I can't think of the word that I want to say, but like, I just didn't really get, she was like saying like, I believe in God, but, and then gave all these personal stipulations and personal, and it's like, that is not the Christian belief, that it's like what you personally think God is. So I didn't really understand why we were having a two-sided sort of discussion when they were sort of, in a way, both on the same side of like, they both don't believe in what the Catholics or Protestants, because both were discussed in the book, like one was from a Catholic family, one was from a Protestant family, like neither of what they were saying was like accurate to either like denomination. So I didn't really understand what the point of that discussion was, because it wasn't like it wasn't actually a two-sided conversation to
Okay.
like, from my perspective.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, like, I always am curious why authors bring up God and faith and religion just to say I don't believe in it. And it's like, okay, then like, were you just trying to make a point that, you or your character is enlightened enough to not like, you know, fall to the whims of Christianity or whatever the character thinks because Vanessa was like, I'm going to fight it till the day I die. And it's
Yeah.
like what, I don't know. I just didn't understand. And I know that I probably personally, like, it's like upsetting to me because I am like Catholic. And so I know that I am more, I'm going to scrutinize those parts of the book more because I feel sort of annoyed and frustrated when like all these books that I've read, I feel like always are representing that sort of faith in a negative light. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not disagreeing that negative and bad things happen within any church system. Like, I know that is a truth. But why is like every author so like bent on like making sure they get their jab in, especially when it's like something related to science? There's this whole discussion about God and faith, and I feel like it says nothing, is how I feel. It says
Interesting.
nothing that's like accurate and true besides for what Joan wants to believe as accurate and true, and a God that she wants to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that happens in real life, and that's like, it's hard because it's like you can write your character and have them believe anything, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I just don't understand in the context of this book and in the context of so many books I've read, what is the point that we're getting at besides trying to show like my character's edgy?
Mm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that's valid, and I don't have as much of a, I think, strong opinion about it as you do, obviously, because you're religious and I'm not. But like, I think at least what I was taking from some things, but I do kind of see your overall point and like do agree. I don't think I didn't love, because I was also raised Catholic. A lot of it's not there anymore because I just don't remember. But like,
Yeah.
a lot of what, Vanessa was saying, I was like, I can tell Taylor Jenkins Reid isn't Catholic, and that's somebody who like
Right.
left the church. So like, I have opinions that, like, as somebody who I think comes from maybe more of a Vanessa in this argument, like, I just wouldn't explain it like that. It just doesn't
Yeah.
it feels like the most watered down way to kind of say that you don't want to be in the
Right.
church anymore. I did though take maybe more of it to feel like an opening in Vanessa's family life. She has friction with her mom. She has friction with the way she was raised. She didn't have a father. There's a line in it in this book where she says, sometimes it feels like I didn't know my dad at all, but instead I just created something out of him because I needed a God to pray to. Like, I needed something. I think it's supposed to show how lost and unsure Vanessa really is in her life.
Yeah.
At least that's what I was taking it as. But there is this whole long, like, 2-page conversation where they're really discussing it. And
Yeah.
sure, yeah, I don't fully know my takes on like the validity of like why that was so necessary outside of what it revealed to me about Vanessa, and also what it revealed to me about Joan, as in she is that optimist in a way where it's like a lot of people I think who are in science think God and science can't mix, but like Joan very much states that she does think it mixes. She has like that line where she's like, I believe God is in the Milky Way, and it's like it very much is congruent with each other to her. And I think that just kind of, it gives me little inferences more so to the character and less so to the overall actual, what is this conversation about religion doing for the plot and doing for the sake of like having a conversation about religion. They could have been talking about maybe anything.
So and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think as we're talking about this book, like, I'm realizing like when I have personal convictions about things that I'm reading or maybe that I'm watching too, it's hard for me to, like, it's like I almost want, not like I want to, shut off or don't want to look into it, but I feel clouded in how I'm supposed to, like, read this, because what you're saying, I think I'm like, oh, that makes sense that we learned that about Joan's character, but I was just so put off by the way that it was brought up. And like, there's a part where Vanessa says, like, that's not the God most people are talking about, and I'm like, I said, says who? You left the church, like who are the people that are talking about it, because you are distancing yourself so far. So to me it sounds like that's just like a poorly biased opinion of hers, and it's hard for me to like care about the validity of what she's saying.
Well, and in that example too, you can think Vanessa's so stuck in her ways that like she to me, I was like reading it as somebody who didn't even want to try and open her mind to it. Like, it was so closed off because of just who she is as a person and like what her relationship maybe in her family, like her childhood, what that all meant. So I mean, like, it's like seeing it on the page like that, I think I 100% get if like I would probably be offended. But like, since I didn't have any stake in that, I was just seeing it through the character lens, and so Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I viewed it. But like, I think you raised an interesting point, and I do find it interesting. A lot of like pop fiction and religion, I don't think mix very well, and I that's so curious to me. I don't.
Yeah,
I wonder.
Yeah, you know, and it's like I think about when we read Sorry I Turned Up Dead or something.
Oh, I see you've called him Ned.
Yeah.
That's good.
Like, I feel like, you know, because they were going to, like, a lot of churches because they were going to funerals. And I feel like, you know, religion and church and stuff and God was, like, part of the text. But it wasn't, I feel like it wasn't, like, offensive in either direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, like, it felt to me like an accurate and fair representation without saying like, and this is right or this is wrong, you know what I mean? And obviously if we're talking about a character's personal thoughts, like, they are going to have personal thoughts. So I have like a hard time bringing it up, and this is why I like cut it all out of the lessons in chemistry, because I know that it's like, it's a personal thing for me, but at the same time it's like, but how many times am I supposed to read books that I feel like the authors are not doing full proper research or justice to the topic that they're talking about? And it's like, I'm not saying that every Catholic or Christian character has to be a moral, upstanding person, or any character that's not those things can't, you know, feel, you know, some type of way about the faith or religion. But it's like, at some point I think I'm allowed to be a little bit like put off by it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Valid. So yeah.
Valid. Yeah. Well, okay, unfortunately I do have to go, so I think we need to start maybe.
Okay.
but this was such an interesting discussion. I feel like we had such like differing opinions on things, which I don't think happens very often, and so I found that to be so interesting. I really didn't think this was a book where I was like, oh, we're both gonna love it. And I was like, oh wait, okay. And you brought up things that like I would have never thought of in like the way that you thought of it, but like I completely see the validity and like understand where you saw that. So it's just really interesting. Like, it's just so interesting to read the same thing and come out with different ways to take things. Like, and
I feel like you find clarity or other meaning in things where I am like, I'm put off by this. And you're like, well, maybe like this is what you could take away from it, you know? And it's like, oh, okay, like, you're right, you know, I could, you know, like things that I can't see past sometimes.
Oh, sure.
My initial, it's like a first impression almost, you know?
Well, I really appreciate the way that you are hearing me out in my counterpoints. You could very much be shutting me down, but you've been very open and kind about
like,
it. So
we're discussing a book. It's not like there's like right or wrong, really.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes you are having conversations with people, and then they're like, they're my opinion, not you.
Oh, I was like, what?
Not you. I feel like sometimes when you present your point, that's a counterpoint to somebody. There's always the chance of somebody being like, like, I don't like your opinion.
Like
Barbara, girl, literally. Anyway,
we could make a whole 30-minute
freaking
part
Barbara
about her, yeah, because I had some beef with her.
I have major beef with Barbara. Girl, good luck out there.
Okay, well, before we go, I'm gonna tell you my surprise, but we're gonna have to do it a different time. But I wrote a list of 27 things that I've never told you.
Okay.
For my 27th birthday.
We're carving out time in the next ep to do that. Next episode, by the way, you guys, is going to be fun because we're going to be wrapping up our year. So actually, I feel like that could be a really fun addition to that episode.
True.
Okay. Wait, I'm excited. Yay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So watch out for that.
Yeah. Watch out for that.
If you guys don't remember when Dan turned 27, she wrote a list of 27 things she never told me. So I wrote one. Stay tuned.
Okay.
But thank you guys for listening to Read the Last Page. Our music and illustrations were created by the amazing Sage Timothy.
If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first Friday of each month. So next month, we will be reading Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. That episode will be out on the first Friday of February, so be sure to pick up a copy and read it by then if you want to discuss it with us.
Before we get to the last page, though, we'll see you in 2 weeks for a catch-up episode where it's just your besties talking about fun things. You can listen to us on your podcast platform of choice, or if you'd rather watch your podcast, you can find us on YouTube at Read the Last Page. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, Discord, and Patreon. And for now, we want to say bye from B
and Dan.
Bye.